there has been a very good messaging campaign that the declaration is aspirational and it has no legal effect. And both of those statements are simply erroneous. And so we think that it's very important to understand that indeed it does have legal effect, and it is much more than being aspirational. And and in fact, we have now legal jurisprudence which emphasizes that they can be used in the interpretation of both Canadian policy and also in legislation. So it's very clearly grounded. We also know that there is a lot of misconceptions about how you use international law in the domestic context, which is also something to overcome. But it's another example, it's another area where the declaration being very solidly part of international human rights law, and that does have real applicability in the domestic context. So it's something that we're using both in the international context, but also in the domestic context. And so in that vein, we produced a joint statement, several organizations produced a joint statement, copies of which are at the front, and that was released today to commemorate the 5th anniversary. And the statement is focusing on resource development and resource extraction, and also the issue of free, prior, and informed consent. And the end of this statement has recommendations to the Government of Canada, which we'll get to at the end of the presentation. So, and in our statement, we're also focusing on both the domestic situation and also Colombia. I'm just going to give you a quote from the United Nations has a mechanism which is called the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And that position is currently held by Professor James Anaya. And he has just released his report. He gives an annual report to the Human Rights Council. And his report for 2012 has just gone to the Human Rights Council. And in that report, he says, consultation and consent and related safeguards that are instrumental to Indigenous peoples' rights in the face of extractive industries that operate or seek to operate on or near their territories, but understanding the reach of those underlying substantive rights and the potential impacts on those rights must be a starting point for solving the many questions that arise in this context. And that's the kind of topic that we're going to hear about and that we want to explore this afternoon from our speakers.